What if I told you that the sense of self you feel like you lost or maybe never had isn't gone forever? What if I told you that who you really are is still there, buried beneath survival strategies, shame, and silence? And what if I told you you don't have to keep proving your worth through what you do, how you perform, or how others see you? That your worth, your goodness, and your power were never destroyed. They were terribly interrupted beneath survival, but they can absolutely be rebuilt. Hi, I'm Carrie McKenna Reese. I'm a trauma recovery coach, survivor, and an accredited complex trauma instructor. I work with people every day who've lived through what I lived through, years of abuse, neglect, and confusion that shattered their ability to feel seen, to feel safe and sovereign in their own life. When the sexual abuse I suffered in childhood ended at age 15, I had no real sense of self. I didn't know that my biggest struggles were actually rooted in not knowing who I authentically was. That truth came to me later in the course of healing. Coaching was extremely helpful to me in getting my sense of self back. But it wasn't just one-on-one work. It was talking with others as well. I was trying to figure out who I was way back in the day when 1993 rolled around and the internet was introduced to the world. I was in my early 20s. This was way before Facebook. So I started an online chat group where I met people from all over the world who were struggling in the same way I was. And that changed everything. I was no longer alone. I knew then that I wasn't faulty, bad, broken, shameful, or malfunctioning. My soul was just one of many running low on oil, misfiring under pressure, and stalling out at the worst possible moments, like an old car trying to make it up a hill with a cracked windshield and a dashboard full of warning lights. And I use this analogy because my dad was a mechanic and I had a great respect for him. So I chalked myself up to this. I don't need to be scrapped. I just need a vast tune-up, a careful, patient rebuild from the inside out. But then the question was, rebuild what exactly? What even is the self that trauma interrupts? And how does one know when it's missing? So that's where we'll start today. Our sense of self isn't just what we like or how we behave. It's not our personality type or our performance record. Our sense of self is the inner framework that tells us, I exist, I matter, I am important, and I'm allowed to take up space. It's you knowing that you have a place in the world, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. It's your soul. You have a right to be seen, heard, and valued. You matter. That knowing is the foundation under everything else. You matter. You always did, even when no one told you. But what exactly makes up that foundation? When we talk about a sense of self, what are we really referring to? So let's break that down. Think of your sense of self like a three-part framework. It's identity, personality, and goodness. These are the three key layers. The first is identity, and this is what you align with. This is your beliefs, your values, your passions, your culture. And the second is personality. This is what you're born with, right? The temperament, tendencies, and traits that are a part of your inner wiring. And the third is goodness. This is your felt sense of being worthy, lovable, and human, even when you're messy, struggling, and unsure. Trauma interrupts all of these. And when you grow up in a home where your needs are ignored, your emotions are dismissed, or your survival depends on pleasing or appeasing others, you don't get the space to become you, who you were born to be. Instead, you become what's safe, right? You become what keeps the peace. And over time, the person you were meant to be becomes blurry, even invisible. Early on, We learn that being ourselves puts us at risk. That was me. So I became who others needed me to be and forgot who I was. Maybe you developed a core belief that said, I can't be who I am. I have to be someone else in order to be loved, accepted, and respected. The earlier this belief develops in us, the earlier the mask is put on and the more lost our true self becomes. Now, a healthy sense of self doesn't mean you're confident all the time or that you never doubt yourself. It means you can belong to yourself while still being in relationship with others. It means you can set a boundary and not fall apart. It means you understand your needs, know how to disagree, how to ask for what you need, how to be alone without feeling abandoned. It means your sense of goodness and power come from within, not from how well you perform or how others approve of you or whether your image is polished enough. When we are safe, our curiosity is free to grow. We explore our external world and our internal world. We dream, imagine, and discover what lights us up. But in complex trauma, curiosity is replaced by hypervigilance. Safety becomes the priority, and our soul's exploration is put on hold until we choose to heal. Now, what happens when that healing hasn't started yet? What does life feel like when your sense of self was never allowed to form? If it wasn't built for you as a child, you may find yourself feeling afraid to say no, unsure of what you like or want. You may be needy for validation, overwhelmed by decisions. You may be anxious when you are all alone, or you may feel like you're always wearing a mask just to keep others close, even if that mask cost you yourself, your peace, and your happiness. That was me. I couldn't bring myself to disagree with people. Making decisions was excruciating. I hid my passions for fear of judgment. I tolerated unhealthy behavior because losing connection felt like losing oxygen. And I felt like a fraud, not just in what I did, but in being a person. There's a grief in realizing you've been missing from your own life. So I was a chameleon in social spaces, shape shifting to belong, but never knowing where I truly fit. I saw other people speak up, assert boundaries, own their decisions with confidence, and it baffled me. I wanted that, but I didn't know how to be that. Not having a sense of self is really a security issue. It's not about weakness, it's about survival. I didn't know I could leave a relationship or a job until things became unbearable. I waited until the last straw every time because that was the only time I felt I had permission to act, and it was always out of fear. And this thing people call imposter syndrome, it wasn't just about success or competency for me. I threw myself into learning everything. I'm quite smart and have mastered everything I take on. This was so much deeper than that. It was like I was pretending to be a person. That's not because I was broken, it was because I was surviving. We're not bad. We adapted. What you might call your dark side is just the armor we had to wear when we were small and unsafe. And when survival requires you to lie, to hide, to shut down your emotions and impulses, it can start to feel like the only version of you that exists is your dark side. That's not true, though. And it's important you know that. That part is the part that protected you, not the whole of who you are. And here's the good news. What didn't get built can still be built. Just like a car that never got proper maintenance, your sense of self isn't beyond repair. It just needs the right parts, the right tools, and patience and a steady hand. You're not totaled, you're rebuildable, and you can do that with the passion of your own heart and gentle hands. But here's the thing, before we can rebuild, we have to understand what broke us down in the first place. Because the problem was never you, it was the message you were given about who you had to be in order to survive. So if you grew up with caregivers who were abusive, neglectful, or emotionally unavailable, you likely internalized some deeply painful message about yourself. Messages like, Being your authentic self is selfish. Speaking up about your needs will hurt or upset others. If you stand out or don't conform, you'll be rejected. Your role is to keep others comfortable and happy, even at your own expense. Or messages like, you're not just struggling, you are the problem. And if you believe that, you may have spent your whole life trying to prove otherwise. These messages aren't true, but they feel true when they're all we've ever known. And they're often the reason we go into adulthood without a real sense of self. If your dreams weren't yours, if your voice was overridden, you weren't just silenced, you were shaped into someone else's image. Sometimes we're shaped to carry someone else's dream. We're praised for performing, for becoming what they hoped for, but never for becoming ourselves. And the longer that goes on, the harder it is to recognize what's ours and what was projected onto us. I have so many clients who are in professions that they don't like because they were pushed to do what mom or dad did or wanted to be and felt it was the only way they would be accepted by them or be loved. We can also be shaped to carry someone else's struggles. If our parents are survivors of complex trauma, if it's generational in our family, we may grow up absorbing their pain, their fears, even their silence, and as if it was our own, right? And without realizing it, we begin to live out a story that never started with us because hurt people. But here's the truth. Just because that story started before you doesn't mean it has to end the same way. The patterns may be inherited, but the healing can begin with you. So how do we rebuild it? How do we move from a fractured self to a grounded one? There are three powerful ways. First, get honest about what's been missing. Start with reflection. Where in your life do you struggle to know what you want or need? When do you silence your truth to keep the peace? And what risk do you avoid because you're afraid you'll lose connection? These are clues that point to the places inside of you that were never nurtured, never given the chance to grow. Clues that whisper, this part of me needs care. They are waiting to be seen. They are waiting to be named. They are waiting to be brought back into the light of your own love. These parts of you show you where you need support. And you can begin to track these patterns and gently name the parts of you that never got the love, attention, and nurturing they needed. And as you begin to see these parts more clearly, you'll notice something. They've been carrying emotions all along, which brings us to the next step, reconnecting your feelings, because healing your sense of self starts with remembering this. Your feelings aren't flaws, they're fuel. And that is number two here, understanding that feelings are fuel. Your sense of self is directly connected to your emotional life. If your emotions were denied, punished, or ignored, your self never got anchored. So begin to ask yourself, what did I feel growing up? I'm not talking just about surface feelings, but the ones you had to hide. Did you feel invisible, like a burden, anxious, ashamed, or numb? These weren't just passing moments, they were survival responses, and they point to parts of you that had to go into hiding. You can also ask yourself, what did I want but never get? I'm not talking about things, I'm talking about safety, affection, protection, to be chosen, to be seen. Longings like these don't make you needy, they make you human. Honoring them helps you come back to yourself. Another question to ask yourself is, what was I afraid of saying? I'm scared. Please stop. I need help. These are words you swallowed to stay safe. Naming what you were afraid to say is how you begin to reclaim your voice and your right to use it. It's like learning the sound of your own voice after years of silence, and it's realizing it's beautiful. And after you sit with those questions, imagine, what if someone had believed you? What if someone had protected you? What if someone had said, you matter, I see you? This kind of inner reparenting where you hold space for the younger version of you is how you begin to build safety from the inside out. Because when you were forced to bury your emotions, it was like cutting the power to your own spirit. You went numb, your soul starved, and you lost the inner guidance that makes you whole. But reconnection is possible, and it starts with small conscious choices. Say no, even when it's hard and it comes out in tears of fear. Tell the truth kindly, even when your voice shakes. Give yourself permission to take up space to honor and love you every second of every day. Every time you honor your feelings and follow through with actions, you are rebuilding trust with yourself. That trust is the foundation for everything else. This isn't just emotional work. It's how we reclaim everyday life, one small, brave decision at a time. And if you're unsure where to begin, try this. Sit quietly and ask yourself if that one painful experience really impacted me the way I now understand it did. What are the 10 things I can do today to begin to heal from it? That simple list can become a roadmap back to you. Do this for all your painful experiences. The journey home to yourself isn't built in one breakthrough, it's built in 1,000 quiet moments where you choose healing over hiding, self loyalty over self abandonment, and truth over silence. And while much of this journey is internal, it was never meant to be walked in isolation. Healing may begin within, but it deepens through safe connection. So, and that's number three, don't do it alone. Healing a lost sense of self requires safe connection. While we were all wounded in relationship, we also heal in relationship. Whether it's private coaching with a trauma recovery coach, a support community, or trauma informed friend or therapist, you need a space where people can reflect your worth back to you, where you can test out your voice and learn that conflict doesn't mean abandonment, where you can witness and still belong. Because when someone sees the real you and chooses to stay, something begins to shift inside of you. You realize you don't have to perform to be loved. You don't have to disappear to be accepted. You don't have to hide to stay safe. You get to show up as you are and still be held and loved unconditionally. This kind of healing relationship becomes a mirror, not of your words, but of your wholeness. And in time, it helps you see what's been there all along, that you are worthy of connection just as you are. There's nothing wrong with you or for not knowing who you are. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling like a fraud or for building your life around what others wanted from you. That was survival. But you're not surviving anymore. You're healing. And your sense of self, the one rooted in goodness and power, is not gone. It's waiting. It's buried beneath all of the lies you were told. You may feel like you've broken down too many times to be roadworthy, but healing is like restoring a classic, right? It might take time, but every mile forward proves you're still going. And I promise you, there is more of you to find if you're just starting out, even learning what complex PTSD is can begin to make your entire life story make sense in a whole new way. Sometimes healing begins with writing it down, moving the story from a mental loop to a resting place where it no longer controls you. Thank you for spending this time with me. I know this isn't light stuff. It takes courage to explore who you are, especially when your story includes pain, silence, and abandonment. If this video helped you or made you feel seen, please share it with someone else who may need it. You never know whose healing you might support. Leave a comment below if something resonated. I read every one of the comments, and you never know who else might need to hear your words too. And if you'd like to walk this journey together, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's so much more to learn. You're not broken. Your real self, the one with goodness and power, it's there, right? Your goodness and your power, they were never destroyed. They were only interrupted. I'll see you next time.